The movie Queen-S Ghost. My actress wife died suddenly while having an affair with her boy toy in a hotel. By the time I rushed over after receiving a call from the police, the boy toy was still kneeling on the floor, wailing her name like his heart was being ripped apart. When I looked up, I locked eyes with Lu Ruyan's spirit hovering above her corpse. She was furious, flustered, and tried to threaten me. "Don't you dare hurt the man she loved." I sneered and said, word by word, "Let us see just how much your lover truly cares about you." 1. The police and forensic doctor looked a bit uneasy at my silence. One of them said, "Mr. Gu." That voice snapped Lin Yi out of his howling grief. He finally lifted his head from beside Lu Ruyan's lifeless body. She had been so obsessed with this Lin Yi that, despite her known heart condition, she'd still taken those dangerous stimulants just for sex. As for Lu Ruyan's so-called true feelings, I glanced at the ghostly figure floating above and let out a cold chuckle. Her so-called love was faker than her performances on variety shows. The moment Lin Yi saw me, panic flickered in his eyes. Then he suddenly leapt to his feet, face flushed with rage, and lunged in my direction. Lu Ruyan's soul instinctively tried to stop him, just like she would VE when she was alive, trying to block between us. Too bad she was nothing but vapor now. She could only watch helplessly as Lin Yi passed right through her and charged toward me. "Ah Yi, stop it!" she shouted in panic, then glared at me with hate. "Guche, if you so much as lay a finger on him, I swear I'll never forgive you." I'd heard that kind of threat far too many times. Unfortunately, I was the only one who could hear her now. Lin Yi tried to grab me by the collar, rage twisting his face. I quickly dodged. Luckily, the police intervened just in time. Otherwise, things would VE gotten even uglier. "Mr. Lin, please calm down. Miss Lua's final arrangements should be handled by her legal husband, Mr. Gu." Clearly, the police had picked up on their relationship and deliberately emphasized the word husband. Lin Yi froze, and his expression twisted even more grotesquely. He looked just like one of those washed-up celebrities exposed in scandals, pathetic and hideous. "I'm calling the cops. Lu Ruyan was murdered. There's no way this was an accident," he screamed hysterically. The officer let out a tired sigh. Seeing how agitated he was, I took another step back. It'd be a huge problem if I got hurt by this little model who slept his way up the ladder. Lu Ruyan stood silently beside him, eyes cold and fixed on me. I couldn't quite make out her expression, but I knew she was probably suspecting me too. Just as the police were about to speak again, I cut in. "Without evidence, that's slander. I could sue you." Lin Yi gritted his teeth, burning with fury. I didn't see the point in arguing further, so I added, "You'd better go pack up the things Lu Ruyan left you while you still can." I paused, then continued. 2. All of that was shared property between me and Lu Ruyan. By law, only Xiao Hang and I are entitled to her inheritance. Mr. Lin, what do you think? Will I be asking you to return the money she spent on you?" Lin Yi froze. His sobs cut off, his expression turning stiff. Seeing that he finally stopped crying and yelling, the police motioned for their colleagues to escort him out. As he was taken away, Lu Ruyan tried to follow, but some unseen force held her at the threshold, refusing to let her pass. I watched her struggle coldly, without a trace of sympathy. "Mr. Gu, we'll be relying on you for the rest of Miss Lua's arrangements," the officer said to me. It was clear the police had already investigated before contacting me. Since Lu Ruyan had indeed died from misusing banned substances, they had no further questions after a few routine inquiries. I didn't have the strength to look at Lu Ruyan's corpse again, especially not her death-pale face. That bluish tint on her skin. I knew it would haunt my dreams. After arranging for my assistant and lawyer to handle the aftermath, I prepared to return home. Although the nanny had already picked up Xiao Hong, I couldn't shake the worry. He had grown up without a mother's love and clung to me more than anything. If he didn't see me, he'd definitely get upset. After giving final instructions and confirming the assistant was en route, I rushed to the airport to catch the soonest flight. By then, I was sure of one thing. Lu Ruyan's soul seemed to be tethered to me by some strange force. Watching her drift near the cabin ceiling, I narrowed my eyes. Now things were getting interesting. As soon as I landed, I received a video from the nanny. Little Xiao Han was wearing his adorable bear pajamas, his big eyes blinking pitifully. He refused to sleep, whining for his dad. Only when the nanny told him I was watching from the phone did he finally smile and sit quietly. Daddy, I really want to sleep with you tonight. When will you be home? My son, Xiaohong, was 5 this year, almost ready to start primary school in a few months. He still spoke in that sweet babyish voice that melted my heart. I hurried my steps. The assistant had arranged the pickup already. In less than half an hour, I was home. The moment I pushed open the door, I saw the nanny reading picture books with him. As soon as he heard the door, Xiaohong ran straight into my arms. I hugged him tightly, gently comforting him before taking him to bed and telling him a few fun stories. It took quite a bit of effort to get him to sleep. All the while, Lu Ruyan sat quietly on the bay window, watching us silently. 3. Xiaohong was the result of an unplanned pregnancy. Before she died, Lu Ruyan never had much affection for me and even less for Xiaohang. She rarely spent time with him. No wonder, after all the coaxing I did tonight, Xiaohong hadn't asked about his mom even once. I heard her murmur softly. She was asking herself why her son didn't miss his mother. That made me laugh inside. Watching Xiaohong sleep peacefully, I planted a kiss on his forehead, then headed back to the bedroom. I wasn't in the mood to beat around the bush. As soon as I sat on the edge of the bed, I went straight in. Since the day Xiaohong was born 5 full years, how many times have you genuinely spent time with him? Taken him to the amusement park, put him to bed at night? Have you done even one of those things? What exactly do you expect him to remember you by? He is closer to his kindergarten teacher than he ever was to you. I met her eyes squarely. 10 years of marriage. 7 years of betrayal. That translucent ghost suddenly locked eyes with me. The room fell into a suffocating silence. Her face was full of shock, all the poise of a movie queen gone without a trace. You really can see me. I said nothing, just stared at her like she was a fool. Lu Ruyan let out a long sigh and floated over to sit at the vanity. When she realized there was no reflection of herself in the mirror, she froze again. I snorted coldly, arms crossed over my chest. Miss Lu, are you planning to haunt me now? After I discovered her affair with Lin Yi, I'd asked for a divorce. But she firmly refused, saying she couldn't live without me, that Xiaohong needed a complete family. Then she started pulling every dirty trick in the book. I even got so fed up that I filed a lawsuit. But I could never find solid proof of her affair with Lin Yi. After all, Lin Yi was the rising star she'd personally promoted. It wasn't unusual for them to be seen together in public. After a few rounds of back and forth, I had no choice but to drop it for the time being. Though on second thought, having an ATM that only knows how to send money wasn't so bad. She wasn't home to get in the way, and at least she still provided financial support. So I focused on planning Xiaohang's future assets, while quietly expanding my own business empire. I had to be prepared in case she suddenly flipped and filed for divorce herself. But I never expected I'd hear of her death before that happened. Lu Ruyan was an orphan. That meant everything she owned would be inherited solely by me and Xiaohong, as her legal husband and biological child. That, perhaps, was the one and only smart thing she ever did. We didn't speak again that night. I fell asleep quickly. The next morning, my secretary sent me Lu Ruyan's cremation certificate with a video of her being pushed into the furnace. She drifted over, unaware of what I was watching, and happened to see the moment she was sent into the fire. You're this calm? Not even a little sad? 4. Her voice carried a trace of exhaustion. Watching me sip my coffee so leisurely, her face darkened with rage. I didn't respond to her questions. After finishing the last sip, I went to wake Xiaohong. He had kindergarten today. Seeing me ignore her, Lu Ruyan paced like a caged beast, her voice rising sharply. Gu Che. Fresh out of dreamland, Xiaohong didn't hear a word of her yelling. He giggled sleepily in my arms. Daddy, I'm bringing lots of snacks for my friends today. Even while brushing his teeth and washing up, he was bouncing with excitement. I smiled fondly and helped him pack the snacks he wanted into his school bag. After dropping him off and confirming everything with the lawyer, I went straight to Lu Ruyan's studio. She stood silently in a corner like a ghost, arms crossed, saying nothing. Maybe she was hoping to see Lin Yi. But she was destined to be disappointed. He didn't show up. Lu Ruyan's assistant already knew the full story and had received notice from our legal team. She scheduled a meeting with me for 2 p.m. Secretary and led me into Lu Ruyan's private lounge. Mr. Gu, please wait here while I prepare the documents. She hesitated, then gestured toward the bedroom inside. "If you're tired, you can rest in there." There was a large bed, a walk-in closet, even a private bathroom. My brow furrowed. The thought that Lu Ruyan and Lin Yi might have done something in this room made me nauseous. Or worse, this entire lounge might still carry traces of them. The very idea made my stomach turn. This place is disgusting. I stepped back from Lu Ruyan's gaze, covering my mouth and nose. I'd rather wait in the meeting room. Her eyes burned with hatred. I ignored her fury and signaled secretary in to lead the way. After reviewing the documents and speaking with my legal team remotely, it was noon. By then, Lu Ruyan had figured out my intentions. While Secretary and I went to retrieve the files, she clung to me like a stalker, hurling curses into my ear. To be honest, in our 10 years of knowing each other, this was the first time I'd seen her completely lose her composure. 5. You dare touch my company? You bastard. This was all mine. Who the hell do you think you are? Lu Ruyan came from nothing. She declawed her way to the top and became an inspirational icon in the industry. We got married right after graduation, but due to her celebrity status, it was a secret marriage. Then, in the 7th year of our marriage, she cheated. While secretary and helped organize my papers, I said coldly, "Everything here now belongs to me." I didn't bother wasting another word. She looked like she'd been struck by lightning, eyes bloodshot. "Gu Che. You'll die a horrible death." After a short lunch break, it was time for the afternoon meeting. Just as I arrived at the conference room, I heard voices from inside. It was Lin Yi speaking. I leaned casually against the doorframe and glanced at Lu Ruyan. The glimmer of hope in her eyes was pathetic. This foolish woman. Dear shareholders. Lin Yi's voice drifted faintly through the door. Lu Ruyan tried to barge in, shooting me threatening looks. But I blocked the doorway without budging. If I didn't go in, neither could she. She was forced to stay outside with me, eavesdropping. President Lu has passed away. Lin Yi's voice was faint. Worried he'd mess up my plans, I stopped indulging Lu Ruyan and pushed the door open. "Mr. Lin. What a coincidence." He flinched visibly at the sound of my voice, dressed in his flashy streetwear. "Good afternoon, shareholders." I ignored him and addressed the room. Seeing Lin Yi still standing in front of my seat, I set down my briefcase and gave him a long, meaningful look. "Is there something you need, Mr. Lin?" He was the easiest type to read, hiding nothing behind those eyes. Just like 5 years ago, when he first slept with Lu Ruyan, he looked at me with the same smug, challenging expression. Same look now. It was obvious he wanted to use Lu Ruyan's company and rally the shareholders to profit for himself. But Lu Ruyan had been blind. She never saw the schemes in his eyes, only mistook the way he avoided Director Shin's gaze for fear and nervousness. One look like that and Lu Ruyan had melted like a lovesick girl. She floated beside me now, trying to intimidate me with her eyes. "Gu Che, if you dare touch him, I'll haunt you for the rest of your life." TCH. Haunt me? I couldn't be bothered. Instead, I looked toward Director Shin, whose perfectly made-up face couldn't quite hide the wrinkles of experience. Lin Yi's taste, frankly, was pathetic. 6. But I understood Lin Yi's position. Everyone in that room knew about his entanglement with Lu Ruyan. Right now, Lin Yi was like a ticking time bomb anyone with half a brain would steer clear. Given that, Director Shin, though over 50, had elegance, wealth, and influence on her side. I gently nudged Lin Yi aside and pulled out the chair to sit down. "I've gathered everyone here today to discuss the company's future." I turned to Secretary and signaled for him to explain Lu Ruyan's situation to the shareholders. And looked hesitant but forced himself forward and recounted the events surrounding her death. When he mentioned the sudden cardiac arrest, every pair of eyes in the room shifted toward Lin Yi, thick with suspicion. Everyone knew Lu Ruyan's marriage with me was dead in name if not in law. And Lin Yi, he was her golden boy in recent years. No one believed her death had nothing to do with him. But since they were the only ones in the hotel room, and Lin Yi insisted it was an accident, the police could do nothing. Even Director Shin's eyes, once warm when they looked at Lin Yi, had gone cold. Lin Yi kept his head down, eyes red and filled with repressed fury. I tapped the table lightly and dropped the real bombshell. "I'm not familiar with the operations of Ruyan's company. After careful consideration, I've decided to sell it. In honor of everyone's contributions, you'll all have first right of refusal. I pulled a stack of business cards from my briefcase and handed them to Lin Yi with a faint smile. Assistant Lin, would you mind passing these around? Back when Lu Ruyan still pretended to be impartial, Lin Yi kept his arrogance in check. But 2 months after realizing we truly had nothing to do with each other anymore, he let loose, always showing off the limited edition sneakers she bought him. Now, having me order him around like a servant, his face turned beet red. His fists clenched involuntarily. Lu Ruyan, furious, could do nothing but watch. It was Director Shin who stepped in. She waved a hand gracefully. Mr. Gu, let us not make things difficult for Assistant Lin. She motioned for her secretary to take over the task of distributing the cards. I raised an eyebrow but didn't object. Once all the cards had been handed out, I added, "You've got 3 days to consider. After that, I'll have someone take over the company." I stood up to leave. At the door, I turned back to look at Lin Yi. 7. Don't forget the little agreement we made at the police station, Mr. Lin. I'll be collecting on that soon. You'd best be ready. With that, I left the room. An unseen force tugged at Lu Ruyan, dragging her away from the company and forcing her to follow me. In the car, she sat beside me. Seeing that I was determined to sell the company and make things difficult for Lin Yi, she finally softened. Her voice lost its edge. "Ah Che, I admit I wronged you. But I always treated you well. I'm begging you give the company to Song Xin. And leave Lin Yi alone." Song Xin was one of Lu Ruyan's earliest business partners and a witness at our wedding. But only her assistant had shown up today. I looked down at the video Xiao Heng's kindergarten teacher had just sent. On screen, Xiao Hong was taking snacks out of his backpack and handing them out to his classmates. The children cheered and clapped, forming a happy circle around him. Xiao Hong smiled so hard his eyes turned into crescents. He was glowing with joy. Lu Ruyan leaned over and saw the video too. She wanted to speak but choked up. She just kept staring at that radiant smile frozen on the screen. When we pulled up in front of the villa, my secretary came running up. He'd been rushing around non-stop from the hotel until now. The exhaustion showed on his face. Thinking of all the business cards he'd just passed out, I suddenly felt a twinge of guilt. "Double year-end bonus this year," I said, patting his shoulder as I walked into the house. The moment he heard that, his eyes lit up. He followed me in and handed me the death certificate. "These documents have already been sent to the lawyers. They're processing the inheritance transfer for you and the young master." I took the papers and glanced at them before deliberately tossing them toward where Lu Ruyan floated. "You've worked hard lately," I told him, then quickly updated him on today's events. Just as I finished speaking, his phone rang. He looked to me for permission, then answered on speaker. A graceful female voice came through the speaker. "Tell Mr. Gu I'll be taking over the company." It was Director Shin's elegant, poised tone. I took a sip of water. That timing. That delivery. TCH. Lin Yi really knew how to pick his allies. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I asked the driver to head to Xiao Heng's kindergarten. 8. Xiao Heng attended a prestigious private kindergarten, where the parent circle was very particular. It was rare to encounter any unpleasant people. I nodded politely at a few familiar parents. One of them approached me. It was the father of Xiao Heng's classmate, Tian Tian. "My daughter loved the snacks Xiao Heng shared today. Would you mind telling me where to buy them?" Tian Tian's dad smiled as he asked. I immediately forwarded him the purchase link. He turned to call his wife. I stepped aside and looked into the classroom, where the kids were laughing and playing with the teachers. Xiao Heng spotted me and waved excitedly, a big smile lighting up his face. Such a sweet, sensible child. The teacher, seeing Xiao Heng distracted, smiled knowingly and gently led him back to join the others. Lu Ruyan appeared beside me, glancing around at the parents waiting to pick up their children. Her voice was hesitant. "Have you always been the one dropping him off and picking him up?" I cast her a sideways glance, clearly impatient. "His mother's gone, hasn't she?" The words lodged like a fishbone in her throat. She had already been holding back anger all afternoon. Now, her face went pale as if drained of all blood. I felt a petty satisfaction seeing her like that. After all these years of love and marriage, I knew exactly what to say to hurt her most. Back then, I held my tongue for the sake of keeping her around as an ATM. But now? I couldn't care less. When the dismissal bell rang, Xiao Hong came running out and hugged me tightly before waving goodbye to his teacher. In the car, he excitedly waved his arms, eager to share everything that had happened at school. Suddenly, he asked with wide, innocent eyes. "Daddy, Meng Meng said every kid has a mommy and a daddy. How come I only have a daddy?" His tone was full of pure curiosity. I secretly let out a breath of relief. From the moment he was born, I had a plan. Even when Lu Ruyan tried to visit occasionally, I always found excuses to turn her away. If I ever let her see him, it was only when he was fast asleep. As time passed and she spent more and more time with Lin Yi, her visits became rare. So Xiao Hong never really formed any memory of her. Lu Ruyan sat silently beside me, watching closely, as if waiting to see how I would answer. I ignored her and, after a brief pause, decided to tell Xiao Hong the truth. He was more mature than most kids his age. I wanted to raise him as both a father and a friend. 9. I calmly told Xiao Hong about the tangled mess between Lu Ruyan and me over the past decade. When I got to the part about discovering her betrayal, even after all these years, my voice caught. My vision blurred, and I sensed Lu Ruyan trying to come closer, as if to comfort me. What a joke. I lifted Xiao Hong from his car seat and held him tightly in my arms. As long as I have you, there is nothing I'm afraid of. By the time I finished, Xiao Hong was crying uncontrollably. Only when the car pulled up in front of the house did he slowly begin to settle down, his big teary eyes blinking hard, trying to hold back more tears. "Daddy, we don't need anyone else. I'll always be with you." Looking at his sweet little face, so lovable and full of heartbreak, I couldn't help but smile. I hugged him even tighter. "Alright then, I'll be counting on you to protect Daddy from now on." After watching him follow Uncle Lee into the house, I sat alone in the car for a while, staring at the empty passenger seat in a daze. Lu Ruyan had been silent the whole time I recounted the past. Maybe she never realized how much damage her actions had caused. Maybe now, finally, she had no words left. She suddenly spoke, but her voice grated on my nerves. "I just wanted some peace and quiet. I had no interest in whatever explanations she thought she owed me." I pushed the door open and stepped out. My leather shoes clicked crisply against the ground. She had no choice but to follow silently, as if something invisible were dragging her along. 3 days passed quickly. After dropping Xiao Hang off at kindergarten, I headed back to Lu Ruyan's company. Secretary Li took me straight to the meeting room. On the way, I'd already been briefed. Though the company had been running smoothly, of all the people who contacted me these past few days, Director Shin had offered the most favorable terms. She'd even sweetened the deal later, upping her offer. Lu Ruyan must have known what I was planning, yet this time, unlike before, she didn't fly into a rage. Before I entered the room, she simply murmured a quiet plea. "Please don't be too hard on Lin Yi." So she really did care about him. I glanced at the message just sent by my secretary and ignored her request, smiling faintly as I pushed open the door to the meeting room. I wondered, after seeing what's inside, would she still be pleading on his behalf? As the door slowly opened, the first thing I saw was Lin Yi, seated next to Director Shin. 10. Gone was the boyish charm and gentle demeanor he always displayed around Lu Ruyan. Today, Lin Yi had unbuttoned his white shirt down to the third button, subtly revealing a firm chest. His black trousers outlined his long, lean legs. Every inch of him radiated allure. Director Shin's fingertips lightly grazed his shoulder. So it was true. My suspicions had been right all along. They had indeed gotten together after that last meeting. I remembered Director Shin's breathy voice when she called me that day, clearly right after she'd had her fill of him. Wearing a casual suit, I walked into the room. Lin Yi raised his chin with an air of arrogance, his eyes gleaming with smug satisfaction. I caught a glimpse of Lu Ruyan beside him and sighed inwardly. After everything, I'd grown numb to her unraveling. Taking my seat, I scanned the shareholders and got straight to the point. I've received quite a few inquiries these past days. After careful thought, I've decided to transfer my shares to Director Shin. I took the legal documents from my secretary and handed them to her. Looking forward to our cooperation. Director Shin retracted her hand from Lin Yi's shoulder, carefully reviewed the documents, and then signed her name with a flourish. "Mr. Gu, the pleasure is mine." Lu Ruyan leaned against the wall, drained and pale. In the background noise of the room, I faintly caught her muttering, "What did I even do wrong to end up choosing a man like that?" But that had nothing to do with me anymore. Now that his plan had succeeded, Lin Yi wrapped his arms around Director Shin and boldly went in for a kiss. Director Shin, captivated by his beauty, was more than happy to play along. She looked over at me, smug. Mr. Gu, couldn't you be a little more merciful to IE? The other shareholders who missed out on the deal raised their heads, ready for drama. I was more than happy to oblige her. Tilting my head slightly, I said with a smile. You know very well, Director Shin assistant Lin wasn't exactly frugal with my wife's money. What belonged to Xiao Hong and me, no one else was touching it. Lin Yi tried to play the victim, looking up with a pout and calling out softly. Shin Jia. He was deliberately acting coy. Director Shin chuckled indulgently and gestured for her secretary to bring over a bank card. There's enough in here to cover IE's little expenses. That should even things out. Then she tossed me a wink. Mr. Gu, if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to call. I couldn't even be bothered to respond. We wouldn't be crossing paths again. I took the card and said coolly, Congratulations, Director Shin. You got what you wanted. 11. As I walked out of the building, I turned back for one last look. The skyscraper pierced the clouds, crowds flowing in and out. Suddenly, my thoughts drifted back to our university days. Back then, the young Lu Ruyan had looked me in the eye and promised a lifetime of love. Now, everything had changed. Seeing my secretary trailing carefully behind me, I couldn't help but laugh. After this, take a few days off. He blinked in surprise, then nervously asked, and the year-end bonus? Am I really that scary of a boss? I lightly tapped his head with my briefcase. Ask one more time and I'm canceling the double bonus. He surrendered immediately. News of Lin Yi's fate came from a mutual acquaintance in the industry. Though Director Shin was wealthy beyond compare, she had no interest in freeloaders. Her favor toward Lin Yi had been purely physical. Back when Lu Ruyan was still around, she couldn't make a move, but once Ruyan was out of the picture, she got her taste. And then got bored. Luxury is easy to get used to, hard to let go of. Lin Yi, now infamous, started bouncing between wealthy patrons, becoming a well-known name in those circles. Eventually, during one of his clandestine rendezvous, he died in an accident. Coincidentally, that was also the day Lu Ruyan vanished completely. Ever since she saw Lin Yi's true colors, she'd gone eerily quiet. So much so that I often forgot she was still haunting me like a shadow. But I didn't care. Life, after all, is about being happy. 12. In the blink of an eye, over a decade had passed. Xiao Hong, now all grown up and incredibly handsome, became an internet sensation after a photo of him drinking bubble tea on the street went viral. Driven by a genuine passion for acting, Xiao Hong chose to enter the entertainment industry. He was determined and persistent. When I offered to pull some strings to help him get better scripts, he flatly refused, choosing instead to work his way up from minor roles on his own. Whether it was playing a nameless passerby with just one line or the male lead with the most screen time, Xiao Hong poured himself into every character, obsessing over the details. He was dedicated and happy. The only downside was that he started coming home less and less. One summer's end, Xiao Hong returned from a shoot and ran up to me excitedly, asking if I'd be willing to join him on a variety show. It's a slow-paced family program, he explained, focused on bonding. I haven't gone on a trip with Dad in so long, I thought it'd be nice to bring you along. To the public, he was Gu Hong, the nation's heartthrob, adored by millions. But in front of me, he was still the same warm, thoughtful boy, occasionally spoiled and always sweet. Seeing me hesitate, Xiao Hong tugged at my sleeve and whined playfully, Dad. Fine, I gave in. A few days later, the crew began setting up their equipment in our apartment. Mr. Gu, this is just for the pilot episode, the assistant director said cautiously. I already knew about it. Xiao Hong had explained everything. I sat with him in front of the camera and answered countless questions about his childhood. Xiao Hong cracked jokes throughout to keep the mood light. The shoot went smoothly. The first leg of the show was filmed at a resort. Since it was a documentary-style program, the camera crew was small, and we had a great time. As the show neared its end, we arrived at our final destination, Hengdian World Studios. The climate was pleasant. Xiao Hong was assigned a separate segment, so I wandered the set on my own, bringing back boxed lunches. Extras surrounded me, chatting amiably. Later that evening, after Xiao Hong wrapped up, we visited the nearby night market together. Neon lights glittered, the air buzzed with chatter. Maybe it was the beer, but Xiao Heng's cheeks were flushed, his eyes bright. "Dad, I've always wanted to show you what my work is like," he said, voice thick with emotion. I smiled and ruffled his hair, just like when he was little, gently soothing him. "You've done so well, Xiaoheng." He had always been thoughtful and composed, never reckless. If he didn't understand something, he would come to me. His path into acting had been carefully considered and clearly, he made it. Now, he was a widely respected actor at the peak of his craft. I was proud. And deeply content. After the show ended, Xiaohong continued his acting career, but he no longer pushed himself as hard. After every project, he'd take a 2-month break to spend time with me as I slowly grew older. I, too, had handed over my agency to a professional manager. These days, I spent my time shopping, golfing, or vacationing with a few friends. No women. Still living quite comfortably. 13. Lu Ruyan's perspective. After I left Gucci, I didn't fall into some bottomless abyss as I had imagined. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in the days of high school, back to when I first met him. Not far away, Gucci stood in a crisp school uniform, black-rimmed glasses perched on his nose, chatting and laughing with his friends. In my last life, I'd met him by delivering a script. That was how it began. He really was wonderful. I clenched the script tightly in my hands. But this time, I didn't dare approach him again. For 2 years of high school, I simply watched Gucci from afar. Without me, he didn't lose his brilliance. In fact, free from the weight of my fragile pride, he shone even brighter. Before the college entrance exam, he was already accepted into a top art school. I laughed bitterly. So he had sacrificed so much for me and I hadn't even known. No matter how hard I tried, I could never catch up to him. I only managed to get into an average university near his school. And over time, the distance between us only grew. Freshman year, he naturally became the star of the campus. Just among the people I knew, over 10 girls were vying for his attention. They were all drop-dead gorgeous, completely out of my league. Meanwhile, I was stuck in the mud, unable to pull myself out. I met Lin Yi again in my 6th year after graduating. Too many failed classes had delayed my graduation. I missed the best job opportunities, and after many setbacks, with limited abilities, I ended up as a ride-hailing driver. One day, I received a pickup request from a luxury hotel. My beat-up used car looked pitiful against the hotel's grandeur. I made the call. "I'll be right down," came a familiar voice. It was Lin Yi. He came out dressed in a tailored designer suit and slid gracefully into the back seat. Something felt off. Lin Yi came from a modest background. There was no way he could afford a place like this. I took a deep breath, a memory flashing through my mind. Lin Yi nestled beside Director Shin in our previous life. This was his true self. He had always been pretending. I had been a fool. "What are you looking at? Just drive," he snapped, dropping his polite facade as he adjusted his collar impatiently. Only then did I realize I'd been staring at him in the rearview mirror. He scoffed and pulled out his phone. "You're definitely getting a bad rating." I had no fight left in me. My mind was filled with fragments of my time with Gucci. I'd once had the best and yet I had thrown it away for someone like this? I slumped in the driver's seat. Soon, my phone chimed. Sure enough, a 1-star rating from Lin Yi. I let out a helpless laugh and opened Gucci's social media page. No longer having to compromise himself for me, he had become everything he was meant to be. In his latest video, Gucci stood on an award stage, elegant and poised, confidence radiating from within. The end.